Once again, a pleasant evening to you, my dear traveller. You know, they say money is the root of all evil, and in my line of work, I find that to be true. Too many individuals let the desire for wealth consume them to the point they will often, sadly, go beyond the legal, moral, and ethical means to acquire it. In fact, I'm reminded of one unscrupulous individual who let the desire consume him so much he was driven to commit the ultimate deed. Come, my lone traveller, and sit a while whilst I tell you the tale I have called Scrap. Although the island of Sodor is infamous for being known as a safe haven for all forms of traction power, be it steam, diesel, petrol, wind, or electric, individuals such as the Fat Controller and Jenny Packard are still wise to remind themselves that nothing lasts forever. Therefore, the island is home to several scrapyards of various scale, from the large industrious ironworks at Kildane to the smaller yet still fairly industrious Cronks on Edward's branch line. Sadly, some of the more smaller scrap merchants on the island are a lot less scrupulous compared to their main competitors, which allows some of them to be able to conduct operations and transactions that are far from above board, promising to ask no questions provided their clients keep a level of confidentiality should the authorities come knocking. One such merchant was Albert Priestley. From the moment he could crawl, Priestley was involved in what was laughingly called the family business. Although truant from school on a regular basis, Albert could still read and do arithmetic, for his father and grandfather would tell him, "Good bookkeeping is important, lad. Best know if someone's nobbling you sooner rather than later." He was always strong physically as well as mentally, as trips out with his father would often lead to Albert having to evade the clutches of the law whilst laden down with half a ton of scrap metal. Yes, it's fair to say Albert was a crook through and through, even to the point he cheated his fellow crooked merchants out of a fair deal, leading to a lot of resentment from his peers.
Two Flavin' Bob, yesterday you said you'd buy the lot off me for 6.
Ah, yes, but that was yesterday, afore I were aware of the startling drop in the value of scrap lead. And before I spotted in the evening paper that someone had gone and stripped off the roof of St. Mary's Church.
Don't give me all that financial bollocks. You're trying to con me and you know it. Why, you rotten good for nothing backseat dirty old scunner. I ought to set the law on you.
I'd like to see you try, especially with half the Reverend Buckley's roof on the back of your car. Now, what do you think the coppers will be more interested in, eh? Me conning you at a couple of bob, or how you happen to have exactly half a ton of quality Tidmouth lead only a few hours after somebody gave the vicar a free skylight?
Now, in addition to the NWR and SKR, there were also privately owned stretches of line on the island. These were once used by wealthy denizens of Sodor, who felt they would benefit from the comfort of a private railway. Over time, several of these lines were sold off to the two major companies by the former owners, in order to cut costs, or because the need for them was not present. Recently, the Fat Controller had to close down and tear up some of the former private lines, as they were becoming just too costly to maintain. Naturally, word of this got to Albert, and he saw an opportunity to make a profit, and so, late one night, he and his son Harry snuck onto a private line just short of Kirk Ronan.
There, what did I tell you, boy? Loads and loads of lovely, lovely scrap. All right for the picking.
Dad, we can't do this. This land's property of the Northwest.
Yeah, who happen to be pulling this stretch up tomorrow at dawn's crack? Use your loaf, boy. By doing this, we're doing them a favour, and making ourselves a nice tidy profit when I sell it back to them at half the price they get for 'em at the ironworks.
Are you serious? You're stealing their rails and selling them back to them?
Course I'm serious. It's this foreman in the works unit I know who likes to buy it cheap.
Supposing he realizes where they came from and reports us?
Fat chance of that happening, lad. If he does, he's got to explain the Fat Act where half of the 500 quid maintenance budget he gets given's gone to.
But supposing they have to divert a train down here?
Then I hope it's got good brakes. Besides, what's the chance of that happening? NWR likes to boast it's really reliable and right on time and all that cobblers. Now come on, stop gabbing and help me pull up these rails.
Unbeknownst to the two, there was a very big chance of it happening. 2 hours later, after they had left with their ill-gotten gains, a local bound for Tidmouth was late departing Kirk Ronan, and the crew decided to convince the signalman to let them down the old private line as a shortcut. The signalman was hesitant at first, but the offer of 10 shillings soon convinced him, and so the local proceeded down the branch. By the time it got to the spot where the 2 scrap merchants had torn up the rails, it was going much too fast to stop in time. The engine came off the rails and slid down the embankment into the marshlands below. Even before it came to a stop, the engine and its coaches began to sink into the soft, wet ground, as if devilish hands from the pits of hell were trying to drag them under. Even those that managed to escape the confines of the coaches and engine cab got sucked under, some just a few taunting inches from solid ground. By the time the alarm was raised and the signalman confessed his deed, there was no hope of anyone having survived. As a result, the rescue operation turned into a recovery operation, and a few days later, Albert was melting down some copper piping when Bert the ironwork shunter rolled in, towing a rusty old engine and 3 coaches behind him.
Help you with something, mate?
You the governor around here?
Depends who wants him.
Look, mate, I ain't got time for flannel. I just need a signature and I need it now.
Oh, all right, I'm the governor. Now, what am I signing for?
This little lot here.
How come? You're from Kildane, aren't you? Thought you lot would be taking first snap at this.
You must be joking. We've got a back longer than both of my arms, and with the fat hat closing these blooming toy branch lines down. Even tried offering it to the mainland steel, but they told us to do one. So it's yours, pigeon, now, fella.
Well, there you go. You've got me John Hancock. I'll take it from here.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, well, well. Christmas has come early, it would seem. Looks like you've got some salvageable parts. I'll go warm up the cutting torch.
Murderer.
Albert looked back and saw the engine, who'd previously had its eyes closed, was now glaring at him through the rust and grime that covered its face. He chuckled as he walked up to the engine, who continued to glare coldly at him.
Oh, still got some steam up, have ya? Well, you might as well use it gabbing whilst you got it, 'cause it won't do you much good after I'm done. So, you thinks I'm a murderer, eh? Look, love, I know your lot are getting cut up all over the place, even once you really have proved your worth. But, speaking frankly with ya, you're my first railway engine. I'm usually melting down lead tiles and copper piping, if you had a few gold candlesticks. So I'd hardly call myself a murderer.
I'm not talking about the day-to-day scrapping of engines. I am talking about the 103 deaths you caused by removing a section of the line that you had no right to remove, causing an engine to derail into the marsh.
What? How do you know that?
I know because I was that engine, and those are my coaches. I also know that it was you because the minute I saw you, I knew you were the one who did it. Call it intuition, call it telepathy, call it whatever you damn well like. I know it was you.
Yeah, so what if I did it and you know? Ain't like you could tell the fuzz, 'cause once I fire up my cutting torch, I'm gonna strip off what parts I can sell, melt the rest down and turn it into novelty paperweights of the Sodor suspension bridge.
Oh, I never said I'd tell the police. No, you're gonna do that yourself.
Oh, and you're gonna make me?
Yes, with a little help from my crew and passengers. Oh, I know their physical bodies were removed when I was recovered, but their spirits, however, became trapped within my train. In fact, that's them right now.
Suddenly, Albert became aware of a faint knocking and a whisper coming from the coach nearest the engine. To his surprise, he noticed the lights of the coaches were now on, and he could see the silhouettes of people behind the glass. The knocking suddenly turned into frantic pounding, and the whisper into frantic screaming. Albert could only stare in horror as he watched the silhouettes pounding on the glass and shoving one another as if they desperately wanted out of the confinement. The screaming filled his ears, and he could hear them all, men, women, and children, crying out for help. Then a new sound entered his ears as the engine started to laugh, softly at first, until it reached a decibel that shattered the glass in every window for miles around. Albert dropped to his knees, clutching his head, and screamed before everything went black.
Dad!
Abby, what happened?
You tell me. I just got home a few minutes ago to see you kneeling down in the middle of that yard, screaming your head off.
No, it was nothing. Just had too much to drink. Now, come on, don't stand around like a stuffed mule. Help me up so I can scrap that smug cow of an engine once and for all. I'll teach you how to play games with my mind.
Dad, what are you talking about? What engine?
Lord's sake, boy, I thought you claimed to have a la-di-da university education. I'm talking about the silly man what's standing over.
But as Albert looked to where the engine and coaches had been left the night before, his eyes widened in fright and disbelief, as all he saw were empty tracks with hardly any indication they'd been there.
You know what? Forget about it.
Albert tried to put the encounter he had that night out of his mind. He so wanted it to be nothing but a bad dream or a hallucination from lack of sleep, but the more he thought about it, the less convinced he was that it had all been in his head. Eventually, he could carry on no longer and handed himself into the police, giving chapter and verse on his illegal operation. Albert Priestley no longer deals in scrap metal, legal or otherwise, for he is worried, should he look as if he is returning to his old ways, then the scrap engine and her train will return. And so, dear traveller, bear this tale in mind whenever you feel tempted to stray from the righteous path, or let the lure of wealth consume you, for just as Albert had his ghost, so too will you. Ah, the clock doth toll the hour, and summons me back to my work. Take care as you continue your journey, traveller, and remember, money cannot buy you happiness. That comes free.